This is J.R.R. Tolkien. He wrote The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. Tolkien was born in the core of the Imperial British Empire. He was born in South Africa in 1892 and his father died when he was 3. His mother took him back to England and they lived in Birmingham together until she also died when he was 12. After being orphaned, he was raised by a Catholic priest. Being educated in Britain meant he was trained on the classic stories. The classics are a formal education in ancient Greek and ancient Roman literature, philosophy, history, and language. This curriculum dominated elite British education from the 18th to the 20th century. His coursework as a schoolchild would have included Homer's Iliad, Virgil's The Aeneid, Caesar's commentaries on the Gallic War, the speeches of Cicero, The Republic by Plato. This curriculum functioned as imperial doctrination. It justified the British Empire by linking it to Rome. British elite men believed that because they were learning Latin and Greek, that they were inheriting the right to rule. Young boys reading stories of men who gained glory through battle. In England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland at this time, native stories were mocked or just erased. Instead of reading Beowulf or Mabinogion, which are Welsh myths, kids in the British Empire were reading Caesar's diaries. And something in his head felt the disconnect. He grew up in this system. He read Homer. He studied Latin. He even wore the uniform of the British Empire, serving on the Western Front in 1914, watching his friends speak Latin in the trenches and die. But he noticed the gap and he kept asking, why does Britain not have its own myths? Tolkien would refer to the 1066 Norman invasion as a tragedy for England. He believed it led to the loss of classic British story, English culture, and the Anglo-Saxon oral tradition. After 1066, French became the language of power. Latin was the language of law and the church, and Old English was for peasants. He saw this as violent assimilation, the elite replacement of English memory. He was reading poetry from Norsemen and Roman men and Greek men, but never English men. So he taught himself Anglo-Saxon. He taught himself how to read Old English and Middle English poetry, like Beowulf. He believed that this older British world was more honourable, more honest, and more in tune with the land. Tolkien was a philologist, which is somebody who studies historical languages and how they evolve. The list of languages that Tolkien studied and spoke is quite exhaustive, so I'll fly through it quickly. Latin, Greek, Anglo-Saxon, Middle English, Old Norse, Gothic, German, Welsh, Finnish, French, Spanish, Italian, Hebrew, Arabic, Old High German, and Celtic languages, including Irish and Welsh. I think Welsh is there twice, but up Wales. He also developed entirely new languages for his stories. His work stands as a tribute to lost heritage. Pre-industrial England inspired the Shire. He used to say, I am in fact a hobbit in all but size. A green land of hedgerows, mills, seasonal festivals, and simple folk that lived without kings or armies. This is what Anglo-Saxon villages were like before the Norman invasion. There are echoes in the work of the same kin-based structures and common land traditions before enclosures. Elvish culture was inspired by Celtic fairy folk, the immortal, forest-bound people who were deeply tied to the land. The elves speak Quenya and Sindarin. These languages were inspired by Finnish and Welsh, not Latin and French. To him, the elves are what is lost when the empire wins. Ents and the forests in Tolkien's work are inspired by ancient Celtic tree lore. The Druids had reverence for the trees. And there are a lot of Old English riddle poems about animist cosmologies. Ents are tree herders, slow, deliberate, elder beings. Their disappearance from Middle Earth echoes the deforestation of Britain under industrialization. To quote him directly, "Some of the trees are my friends." Cusdul is the language spoken by the dwarfs in Lord of the Rings. If you look at the language structure, it resembles Semitic languages, so Hebrew or Arabic. And this character shows themes of diaspora, where they've built up in secrecy. They show a huge amount of resilience, and they have a strong cultural memory. He commented that the dwarves had a peculiar blend of Semitic culture and Norse mythology. They live underground, they value kinship, and they protect their language from outsiders. Rowan was inspired by Anglo-Saxon England, specifically the language and society of Beowulf. They speak Old English, they are horse lords tied to the land, and they are resistant to change. The names, customs, and songs of Rowan are direct homage to the Anglo-Saxon culture that Tolkien had taught at Oxford. Rowan is what Anglo-Saxon England could have been. Gondor was inspired by a post-Roman Britain. It's depicted as a fading noble kingdom trying to hold on to past greatness. You can see echoes of Byzantium, the legacy of the Byzantine Empire, another one of Rome's rebrands, in how these people are portrayed to be high in dignity, but essentially rotting. Gondor is powerful, but it's in decline. It's trapped in ceremony and nostalgia, and Stuarts rule Gondor in the absence of kings, which is a metaphor for the British Empire being Roman without purpose. British imperial leaders are Stuarts who rule in the legacy of Roman kings. Mordor is the city of London, centre of power. The sky is full of black smoke. Machines replace trees. There are surveillance towers instead of stars. Everything is paved, everything is owned. Isengard's machines and Mordor's barren landscape are what you are left with when the last tree falls and the rivers are dammed. Tolkien didn't just mourn what was lost. He built a place for us to remember what is still possible. He walked through the British fields and streams and hedgerows and mills, and he gave us hobbits. Hobbits live in rhythm, not rule. They celebrate birthdays, they eat 6 meals a day and enjoy all of them. They tell stories, they walk barefoot, they keep gardens, they don't chase power, they don't expand, they stay rooted. And that is the real revolutionary act. Samwise Gamgee isn't fighting for glory, he just refuses to leave his friend. Frodo never wants to lead, but he understands that the world has to heal. And the hobbits win because they don't assimilate. They never become like the world that's trying to destroy them. The Shire isn't soft. It's strong in a different way than what Imperial programming believes. The Shire is worth saving. You don't need to conquer the world. You just need to love it enough not to let it burn. Tolkien never forgot that. The Glimmer Team are a grassroots organisation of friends, music lovers and creatives, united by music, community and collective action. What began as a WhatsApp community for pop-up raves has turned into something that creates real-world impact. We rave together, we lift each other up, and we fundraise. This video is dedicated to Haig House. Haig House Trust is a well-established charity that serves the British veteran community. If you've made it to the end of this video and you have a spare £1 or £2, I will leave the link in the description. Whatever we as Glimmers are able to raise for Haig House, the law firm I'm employed at have said they'll match it, so every little helps.